Hello friends, John Dalton here for the Emergence podcast, where we go into the mystery, consciousness, love. And in this episode, we're going to be exploring mental health, childhood trauma, life teaching you lessons. It's not really. The illusion of control, taking life seriously or too seriously, becoming rigid, certainty, and then we're going to have a little chat about meditation. So let's start off by having a quick look at the memes on the Further Emergence Instagram feed. I didn't write this one, but it's very good. It says, anything that costs you your mental health is too expensive. That's one of those ones that you let sink in for a minute. Anything that costs you your mental health is too expensive. Because the things that we allow to cost us our mental health, we don't think of them as being expensive. We just go, we make excuses for them. We go, oh yeah, but now let me explain it to you. Let me explain the situation to you. And it's like, no, don't explain the situation to me. If you know it's costing you your mental health, it's too expensive. It's pretty much cut and dry. It's like, yeah, but hang on a second. And it's like, yeah, I hear you, but it's true. Anything that costs you your mental health is too expensive. Because once your mental health goes, your capacity to get out of trouble diminishes. At least with your physical health, you can still do things and you can still try and help yourself. You know, you can still, like if you get some weird bacterial, fungal overgrowth, viral, you can research it. You can try different doctors. There's all sorts of different things you can do because you've got the driving engine of your consciousness, When your mental health is affected, depending on how it affects you, your ability to navigate your existence becomes very hard. It's very hard to help yourself. You really are, you really rely on other people to help you, to help you rest or to help you do whatever you need to do. So anything that interferes with your mental health, it's too expensive. It's pretty cut and dry. But of course, we all make excuses about it, but we really shouldn't. It's too important. So I like this one. I think it's very good. Didn't write the next one either. It says, I release myself from versions of me that I created to survive. And this one had a funny reaction. Some of the comments I got was, wow, that's a tricky one. And another one said, yeah, but how to keep surviving then? Our main priority in childhood is survival. That's our number one thing to do, survive. Okay, and it's almost like when our long finger is invented. Because what we do is we're like, I'm going to survive now and I'll sort it out later. I'll put it on the long finger and then sorting it out later. And then as adults, we forget about all this stuff that we promised ourselves or we put in the I'll sort that out later basket. And we wonder why we've got issues. And what this is saying, I release myself from versions of me that I created to survive. Because the version of you that you create to survive is not necessarily the best version of you that's going to help you as an adult. And often the healing work that we do as adults is in filling the gaps in our parenting, filling in where we didn't get what we needed. We didn't get the love we needed. We didn't get the attention we needed. We didn't get the comfort, the safety, whatever it was. Finding out what the gaps are and helping to fill them is the work of being an adult. Or you can just bounce around in your life reacting. No one says you have to do this. And you probably know a lot of people who don't do that and are very reactive. But they're not you. You're listening to me. You're listening to this. You're drawn to this sort of thing. You know about this sort of thing. So you've got all your little gaps inside you, just like I've got my gaps inside me. And I'm reparenting those parts of me that didn't get the love and attention that they needed. And you'll be doing the same. And that's what this is about. And that's actually how you continue to survive. Because often what we put on the long finger as kids bites us in adulthood. And in order, when this person is going, but how to keep surviving? Well, how you keep surviving is you deal with these things. You do this reparenting work that I'm talking about. So, very good one. I release myself from versions of me that I created to survive. Very good. I did write this one, and I like it very much. It says, for as long as you think life is teaching you lessons, you'll be stuck in school. And this one always gets funny reactions as well. There's a very persistent idea in, well, religion, but the new religion, the new age religion kind of thing, or the new age way of looking at things, of life teaching you lessons. And you have to be open to the lessons. And, you know, it's a vague, very subtle version of no pain, no gain. And it's also a vague way of relating to life as a person, an intelligence, an identity just like you, and it's teaching you a lesson. It's not. It's not at all. And it's like, well, number one, like humans are fierce for anthropomorphizing everything. You know, we just we personalize everything. So everything's got an identity. I've got a name for my umbrella. I've got a name for my car. The front of my car looks like a face, you know, all that kind of thing. And then, you know, we can't bear to look at the night sky or the sunset because it's too broad. It's too non-specific. You know, there's nothing there we can latch onto. You know, but in my experience, that's what life is like, or that's what God is like, or that's what, you know, the universe, or all those big words that people use. But then it's not really looking at how learning happens. We just think, oh, well, in order to learn something must be teaching me. It's like, no. Did somebody, you know, teach you how to walk? No, you kind of figured it out on your own. Did someone teach you how to go to the bathroom? Yes, they taught you how to go to the little room with the porcelain in it, but I don't mean that. I mean how to make a bowel movement. Nobody taught you how to do that. You just figured it out. So just because your consciousness grows doesn't mean it's because you're learning lessons. You know, you're not in school. There's no teacher up there, you know, grading you. It's just a naturally occurring thing. You just naturally become more conscious. Now, you can get engaged with it. You can get engaged with the growth of your consciousness, and you can accelerate it through things like meditation and reflection and facing pain and all these different things that I go on about. You can get involved with it, but, you know, look around. Most people are not that interested in it, and they still grow in consciousness. That's another thing. People who are drawn to the spiritual life, I almost kind of resent people who aren't. They're like, well, they're not becoming more conscious. You know, you have to look at your shit, man. No, you don't. Most people don't. But they still grow in consciousness. People who are into consciousness are like, no, they don't. They're not growing in consciousness. They're not, you know, they are. You can't avoid it. This is a naturally occurring thing, you know. And it's more to do with your configuration. Some people have green fingers. They're very good in the garden. Some people are very good in the kitchen. They love to cook and they're really good at it. Some people have a musical, you know, ear. They can hear music. They can play music. They're just gifted. Some other people are languages. Other people are artists. They see things, you know. And other people are drawn to all the spiritual stuff, okay? It's just the way you're drawn. It doesn't make you special. It doesn't give you the monopoly on insight and growth and wisdom. That happens to everyone. And if you're not sure about that, just step back from your prejudice a little bit and just look at people. Look at people you knew 10 years ago. Look at them now. They change, you know, and give it more time and you'll see bigger changes, you know. Like you can see it and you say with your parents as well. Like your parents were probably tyrants when you were a kid because they were in their 20s or maybe they were in their 30s. And if you, depending on your age, but if they're in their 60s or 70s now, they're not tyrants anymore. They're very nice. They're very mild. I mean, the barbs may still come out a little bit every now and then, but compared to the viragos they were when they were younger, they're lovely now, you know. But if you're into, no, only people who are conscious can, you know, grow, or into consciousness can grow, or into the spiritual life can grow, you'll miss it. You'll miss what's happening with them. But in my experience, and as I observe people, everybody grows. So it's just a naturally occurring thing. So this idea of being in school and getting lessons and life teaching you lessons, it's so limiting and it's so disrespectful to yourself. That's the thing to really get about it. It's so disrespectful to yourself because it's kind of putting yourself below life or below, separating yourself from life and kind of going, oh, I have to be a good little student and get the lessons, and I'm slightly stupid, and if I'm a bit dumb and I have to be taught, rather than I'm just growing. I'm more conscious today than I was yesterday, and I'll be more conscious tomorrow. That's just the natural flow of things. That's just the way it's been going. When you're with that, then it's like me and life are together. Life's not teaching me any lessons. I'm just learning. I'm just growing. My consciousness is just growing, and it's all beautiful. And there's no hierarchy. There's no above and below. Come on, drop that. That's old. I didn't write this one, but it's very good. It says, you're afraid of surrender because you don't want to lose control. But you never had control. All you had was anxiety. That's very good, isn't it? This idea of control is such an illusion. Anything could happen at any moment. You could think of that on the small scale, like the cliche of I could get hit by a bus in the morning, a plane could crash into me, I could catch some weird thing, I could win the lottery. You never know. You've got no clue about what's going on. Life looks very predictable. I'm going to go to my job. This is the person I see at the corner every day, every morning. This is what I'm doing at the weekend, so on, so on. But it's not. Anything could happen, And if it doesn't take much ranging around to either see how it can happen in your own life, things that have happened in your own life out of the blue, or maybe somebody that happened. I see it all the time with the people I work with and in my own life. It's just like it's happened so many times. Incredible random things that you cannot control. And somewhere we know we can't control it. That's what this is saying. You never had control. All you had was anxiety. And in a way, the anxiety was probably coming from the knowledge that you don't have any control. So you could feel like you are strapped to the back of a wild horse and all you can do is hang on and just enjoy the ride. But you don't know what way it's going or where it's going or what's going to happen. I mean, deeper parts of you do. And there is a part of you that knows what's happening, knows why you're here, knows the question you're working out about yourself, knows all that stuff. But, frontal awareness doesn't know that. I don't really know that. I have senses of it. I've looked into it, but mostly I don't. So this idea of control is in the face of that my frontal awareness is the least conscious part of me. Yet it has to deal with everything. And it really doesn't know what's going on all the time. I did write the next one. And it says, waking life is an illusion. It's most enjoyable if you take it seriously without believing it's real. Now, if there was an instruction manual for life, if life was made by IKEA, that's what it would be. You'd open the little brochure and that's what it would say. Waking life is an illusion. It's most enjoyable if you take it seriously without believing it's real. And you could say that, you could put that on the outside of a cinema. The film or the movie you're about to enjoy is not real, but it's most enjoyable if you take it seriously without believing it's real. It's almost unsaid, it's the sort of thing you have to say to children if they get a bit afraid in a cinema. You say, it's not real. They're just acting. It's the same. You get the most out of it. It's the most enjoyable if you take it seriously. Because that's kind of one of the spiritual bypass things of like, it's all an illusion, man. What's the point? Nothing matters, It's true. That's a deep spiritual truth. Nothing matters. But it's not very enjoyable. It's not enjoyable if it's like nothing matters. It's like if you're playing Monopoly, suddenly the game's not going the way you want. You're like, this is just a game. It's like the equivalent of kicking the game over. The spiritual bypass of like, nothing's real, man. It's all an illusion. That's true. But it's like, but you're here. You obviously want to be here. So find out why you want to be here. Get back in the game, because it's more fun when you play the game. Didn't write this one, don't know who did. It's a little clip from a newspaper, supposedly. It's a meme. Who can trust a meme? And it says, the legendary cellist Paolo Casals was asked why he continued to practice at age 90. Because I think I'm making progress, he replied. That's beautiful, isn't it? I want to be that guy. I don't particularly want to play the cello, but I want to be that guy at 90, still trying to perfect something, still engaged. So let me speak to you, particularly if you're an older person, because there's a real danger as you get older of calcifying, hardening up from the inside. And one of the ways is of like, well, what's the point? What's the point? I haven't got that much long left. I need to retire. I need to rest. All that kind of thinking is conditioned thinking. It's kind of an entitlement mentality of like, the more years I've lived and the more years I've survived entitles me to wisdom and rest. Both of which are, wisdom, you're not entitled to wisdom. You either get wiser or you don't. And you probably know people who are old and not wise. They're like big babies. And it's a bit of a shock, isn't it, when you bump into somebody who's very old and they're still sticking their lip out like a baby, or they're still having tantrums, or they're still, and often it gets worse. If they're on that trajectory, it often gets worse. But you're not entitled to wisdom just because you've lived longer. And if you work in a job for so many, 20, 40 years, and, you can retire. Sure, you can retire. But retiring, the mentality of retiring is very bad for you. It's so bad on so many levels. I encourage you, if you're getting older, to undertake bigger, scarier, or more audacious projects the older you get. Because there's great vitality in that. There's great vitality and energy in undertaking things, rather than this sort of contracting feeling of like, oh, well, the best years are behind me now. They're not. You don't know that. You just know there are years behind me. That's all you can say. But you don't know what's ahead of you. So you can, if you take on big, scary, audacious projects and challenges, great. You'll be fully engaged. You'll get you out of bed in the morning. You'll jump out of bed. You'll be, fully alive for it. So if you stop in your job and you, what other people would call retire, that's fine. But have a big project ready to go. Don't settle into waiting to die, which a lot of older people do. I don't know whether it's a conscious thing or not, but you can see it. They sort of like, I've got my life just the way I want it now. I've got the house I want, I've got the couch I want, I've got the telly I want, I've got the car I want, the partner, the kids are set. I like going to this place on Tuesdays. I like that restaurant. I know, they got it all mapped out. And then it's like, okay, great. What are you going to do now? And it's like, well, I'm going to maintain it. I'm just going to enjoy this, That's death. If you're not, engaged in the new thing and then growing and all that kind of thing, smash it up. I would encourage you to smash it up. Don't get into the departure lounge of your life. Don't create a little departure lounge for yourself. Smash that up and set out on new horizons, undertake big, scary projects. That's my advice. And that's kind of what this is about. Is like, there's Paolo practicing away. He's got this thing that he will never reach. He doesn't care about that. He's just practicing because he thinks there's room for improvement. He thinks there's room for progress. And that's a beautiful mentality. And that's why at 90, he's still going. Like if your work isn't something you can do as you get older, change it to something that you can do for the rest of your life, that's going to keep you interested for the rest of your life. Because like the statistics on when people die, it's so close to retirement age, it's depressing. People retire at 65 and 66, they're dead. Look it up. The statistics are spooky. Right. I didn't write the next one. Lao Tzu did. It says, without the pretense of certainty, it's easy to be compassionate. This is one of the most beautiful things I think I have ever read. I made a photo about this 20, 30 years ago when I first came across it. Without the pretense of certainty, it's easy to be compassionate. Not being certain, it's the seeds of compassion are there, because when you're certain about things, it's easy to not be compassionate. It's easy to kind of go, well, I can see that your leg is hanging off, but you're a bad person. Yes, you're a bad person. You've done bad things. So, I'm not going to feel anything about it. Hardening into a feeling of that people deserve whatever they get. And this can happen in the spiritual thing as well. It's like karma, see, have you seen people going to go, oh, well, that's karma. Outwardly, they're going, oh, that's karma. Inwardly, they're going, that's karma. They got what they deserved. Thank you, karma. That's certainty. It's like you've done wrong, and you'll get yours. You'll get what you deserve. That's certainty, and that's blocking your compassion. Whereas, God, we have such a limited perspective. We really have such a limited perspective on the bigger, vast movement of the mystery. Really, my perspective is tiny. So I don't know what justice is. My little heart can kind of go, well, right is right and wrong is wrong, and that feels wrong. But what do I know? And what do you know? Nobody knows. So when you can be easy with that, there's a lot more space to be compassionate. Compassion just comes through, because what we do know is we're all just muddling along here, with dealing with varying amounts of unconsciousness and varying agendas, meaning everyone's got different questions they're figuring out. We're all trying our best. We're all doing our best. Sometimes our unconsciousness gets in the way. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes we're shining. Sometimes we're covered over. But we're all in there doing our best to become more conscious in one way or another. And it's not easy. And being alive and being here, it's not an easy place by any stretch. The more conscious you get, the easier it gets. But it's still not easy. So knowing that and having a sense of friendliness towards each other feels natural and a lovely thing. Life hacks, what came to me this week about life hacks was about mending things or repairing things. I was fixing something during the week, and I kind of noticed that I just do that. I just naturally fix things. And yes, I'm pretty good with my hands, but I don't think it's anything to do with that. I think there's something very satisfying about mending things and about taking something that was broken and fixing it and patching it up. It's almost like that Japanese kintsugi, the art of repair. There's something that's been repaired is almost more beautiful than something that is brand new. In a way, I don't know if that's completely true, because I like brand new things as well, brand new shiny things as well. But there's something, I have an affection for things that I've repaired. And I think it's that thing of seeing the hand of a human being involved in them. And often my repairs are a bit funky. They're not pretty by any stretch. Like I can sew just about. I think that's what I was repairing. I was repairing a raincoat. The underneath one of the armpits, the seam had come apart. And the movement to just throw stuff away is strong in our culture. You kind of have to fight against it a little bit. Because things are cheap. You can just replace things quite easily. But it's so much more satisfying to repair things. Anything, like I'll try and fix anything rather than replace it. Now, if it's beyond replacing, I have no problem repairing. I've no problem getting a new thing. That's fine. I don't mind that at all. I love getting new things. But I also enjoy repairing things. And if you don't know how to repair things, you can look it up. I mean, YouTube is full of any kind of thing you want, Like I recently fixed a computer. I don't know anything about computers, but I changed the hard drive. I changed the RAM. I don't know about that stuff. I looked it up on YouTube. They told me how to do it. And I did it, and I felt like I was doing brain surgery, and my hands were almost shaking. And I did it. I followed the steps exactly. I did it. I put it all back together, and it worked. And I felt like the king of the internet, or the king of technology. And my affection for that computer has just gone up, because it's like, oh, we've been through something together. And I dusted off things, and I got rid of little bits of fluff, and I kind of know that machine now better than I did, Same with my raincoat, with my goofy stitching on the inseam that nobody can see anyway. But it's repaired, and I like that. I feel good about that. I was watching a YouTube thing about a guy renovating a house, and he threw so much good stuff in the skip. And it was all about, we're going to make it cool and sexy and new. Nothing wrong with that, but it seemed like such a waste of things. There wasn't anything wrong with them. We were just throwing them in the skip, It's like, why don't you just give them away or something? It's like, I don't have time. We've got to consume the new thing. We've got to make the new thing. And I get that. But it's very enjoyable to pass things along to other people who want them, because they're new to them. That's the thing. They're new to them. And also to repair anything that you can. It's really enjoyable to repair things. So that's my life hack, passing it on. This is a new bit, new section, film recommendations. I'm laughing because, it just occurred to me, like, there are films that I saw that really impacted my spiritual life. And they've stayed with me. I haven't seen them in years, but they've stayed with me. So I thought, I should probably share these. And there are TV programs as well, but we'll start off with films. And there are books, which I talk about every now and then. Anyway, my film recommendation for you, it's an old film, 1990, and it's called Jacob's Ladder. It's classified as a psychological horror. Now, I don't like horror films. I don't watch horror films at all. So I don't know whether it justifies that thing. But it's a very good film. I'm not going to tell you anything about it because, it's 1990. So when I saw it in a cinema. And I think seeing something in a cinema is a different experience to watching it at home. And I think there's something about the immersiveness of being in a cinema that's not the same as when you're at home. So when I'm watching a movie at home, I try and recreate the cinema immersion. I don't try and get distracted, or I try not to get distracted if I can. So yeah, Tim Robbins. There was a remake. Apparently it wasn't very good. So it's the 1990 one with Tim Robbins. It's very good. It's not on the surface, it's not a spiritual film at all. It is a thriller. It's one of those films where you're going, what's going on? What's happening? What? Trying to figure it out. So there are no overt spiritual things in it, but it made a deep impact on me when I watched it. And it stayed with me. And I think I watched it in a film festival. So it would have been in the mix with a lot of other films, but it really, made an impression. So here's a quote from Bruce Joel Rubin, who's the writer of the film. And he said, "The inspiration, in a sense, is my entire spiritual upbringing. Once you have a meditative life, you start to see that the world is really far different than what it appears to be. What appears to be finite is really couched in the infinite, and the infinite imbues everything in our lives." Now, I only came across this quote today because I looked it up on Wikipedia, the movie, just to find out a little bit more about it. And I didn't even know that that's where he was coming from when he wrote it. So, very good. Jacob's Ladder. Have a watch. I don't know how you can find it, but it's not like, it's on Netflix or it's on this one or the other. I don't know where it is, but it's very good. And let me know how you got on with it. I'd love to hear what your reaction is. Have you signed up for my weekly notes? Do you even know about my weekly notes? Every Sunday. It was pretty late last Sunday. I think I sent it out at like 11:30 at night. But either way, they go out on Sundays. Every Sunday I send out a little friendly note, just with a little roundup of what's been happening in the week and an inclusion of some of my writing. And they are jolly good fun. So go to the website, furtheremergence.com. and you'll see a thing on the bottom of the screen to stay in touch. Now, let's have a little chat about meditation. I realized that because we've got the meditation training coming up, which starts Monday week, it's taken me a while to realize that whenever I go to write about meditation or the benefits of meditation, I just draw a complete blank. I'm like, yeah, meditation's very good because, and I can't think of anything. I can't think of anything in the moment. And yet, like in the one-to-one work with people, or if in the retreats or anything like that, it comes up all the time. And I'm like, oh yeah, meditation would be good for that. Meditation would be good for that. And then I realized that the reason I draw a blank is that the way I meditate is I stop thinking, okay, repeatedly. So I turn off the pictures, I turn off the sound, I stop thinking. So my mind doesn't actually register meditation. It doesn't register what goes on. The only way my mind knows anything about meditation, it's a little bit like stalking Bigfoot or doing archaeology. The thing that you're trying to describe, you can only describe it by the clues and the footprints it leaves. And it's a bit like that with meditation for me. It's like, because my mind, I often describe it as when I meditate, I go into a room that my mind cannot enter. It's not like I don't want it to enter. I'm very happy for it to enter, but it just can't get into the room. That doesn't stop it being on the outside, commenting on it, but it really doesn't know what happens in meditation. So it can only see the benefits of meditation through the clues and the evidence. So what I decided to do was, I thought, okay, I'm going to do my normal meditation, my normal 15-minute meditation, but I'll have something beside me where I can write. And if anything pops into my mind, or if anything pops up about the benefits of meditation, I'll stop the timer, I'll write it down, and when I've written it down, I will start the timer again. So what follows is what came up in a just very short 15-minute meditation about the different things that, the different benefits of meditation. And as I say, I wasn't thinking these, I wasn't joining the dots here. They would just pop up because because it's never great, or I meditate to be in the mystery. I don't meditate with an intention like that. But even with that, these are the things that popped up. So the first thing that popped up was calmness. I am much calmer than I was before I started meditating, which is a funny thing to say because I started meditating 40 years ago. And yet I know I am a calmer. Now people tell me, they're like, oh my God, you're so calm. You're so calm. I love being around you because you're so calm. And that's lovely. I'm happy to hear it. But I know myself that being still is just really easy for me. I'm very familiar with time stopping and just being very still. And I notice it particularly when I'm around people who don't meditate, because they seem like they're going very fast. You know the way you could turn up the speed on different things, like if you listen to a podcast. I know somebody listens to a podcast, all podcasts at twice the speed. Now they get through a lot of podcasts, but for me, sometimes talking to people is a bit like they feel like they're on double speed. So calmness, that was one that came up. Another thing that came up was I don't feel the need to fill the silence with words. So if I'm talking to somebody and there's just a natural silence, I'm okay with that. But I can see that they are not, that there's an uncomfortableness there. And I can see in their uncomfortableness that I used to have that uncomfortableness as well. I don't have that so much anymore. I mean, I don't let it go on forever. Like if I don't like it, make it hard for the person or whatever. But I do have that thing where I'm comfortable with the silence. I don't feel the need to fill it with words. So that came up. I'm able to see my thinking as it's happening. This is probably one of the bigger benefits to meditation. Like instead of me being very glued to my thoughts and feeling like my thoughts are me and I am my thoughts, I'm almost always to the side of my thoughts. Not consciously observing, in a patronizing or in a superior kind of way, like, oh, look at me thinking that, or oh, I'm thinking this other thing. But more in a case of there's always a part of me that's observing myself thinking, for the most part, not always, but a lot of the time I'm seeing myself thinking. And that is so helpful because it means that there's a space between me and my thoughts, which means there's a time difference, which means I can get ahead of my thoughts if I need to. Which leads to the next thing, which is I don't get taken over by my wounded child parts as much. Because I can see my thoughts, I'm to the side of my thoughts, you could say, I can see them coming. If something happens that causes a pain, old pain to come to the surface, or what people call being triggered, if I'm triggered, rather than I'm suddenly taken over by the rage of a 5-year-old part of me, or the sorrow or the despair or the need for cake or ice cream or whatever, or wanting to lash out or do all the sorts of things that we do, I'm taken over a lot less by them. And if I am taken over, they can stand down, they can hand the controls back a lot quicker because of the meditation. And I think it comes from that being to the side all the time. Because instead of going, I am rage, it's just all over me, I am to the side going, oh, okay, so there I am being full of rage, or there's a lot of rage there right now. That's so helpful because being to the side, it helps me to have a relationship with those parts of me and help them to do that reparenting and filling in the gaps that I was talking about earlier on to do with the wounded child parts. The next one was I'm much more in tune with my body. Because I'm turning off the picture, turning off the sound, and I'm coming into the sensation in my body. I'm much more conscious of my body, my breathing, tightnesses, tensions. They stand out like neon lights inside. If I'm tight, if I'm holding my breath, if I'm not breathing fully, any aches or pains, any ways that I'm holding my body, so much more in tune with that because of meditation. Because as soon as I close my eyes, it's like suddenly, like one of the things I do when I'm meditating is I don't get into a special meditative position. I always just like to close my eyes. And mainly because as soon as I close my eyes, I go, my God, I'm so uncomfortable. I thought I was comfortable, but now I've closed my eyes and I'm starting to meditate, and like I'm sitting really, I'm practically lying in this chair, this upright chair. I'm practically lying in it like a hammock. My legs, I thought I was comfortable, but I'm really uncomfortable with my legs, So meditation has really helped me be in tune with my body and tune with aches and pains and sicknesses. If I've got a pain that persistent pain, I can look into it and all sorts of things. It's been so helpful. It's also helped me to become very familiar with what my body feels like normally, so that if there is an unusual kind of thing going on in my body, because pains and aches and tensions often transition through my body, same as you, I'm sure. And through being very familiar with my inner space or what my body feels like on the inside, because, if you've listened to the podcast a bit, I don't take my body that seriously, meaning I don't really buy into or I don't really go with the assumptions about my body, like that I've got a head or I've got a face or I've got a back or anything like that. I just go with what I can experience. So for me, my body is a bit like a glove puppet, and I've become very familiar with what the inner lining of that glove puppet is like. And if there's something out of place or off, I can spot it. It just stands out. And that's all come from meditation as well. And then I can use meditation to find out what the disharmony is and help it to release. So that's brilliant as well. Intuition. Okay, so I'm meditating, so I'm turning off the pictures, I'm turning off the sound, I'm stopping thinking, and I'm consciously going into the mystery. Now, as a result of that, I get to see my thinking quite clearly. And then I also get to see the difference between figuring something out, or my mind figuring something out. Because, like everybody, I get into trains of thought. And the thinking I do when I'm meditating, even though my intention is not to think, but the thinking I do when I meditate, it's so much better than the thinking I do when I'm not meditating. You know, I work a lot of things out when I'm meditating, even though I'm not trying to, but what will happen is something will trigger a thought, I'll get on a train of thought without realizing it, and I'll figure something out. And it usually is very good, you know, something I've been going, what am I going to do about that other thing? What do I do? And then I'm like, oh, forget about it. I'm just going to meditate. Or, you know, time passes and I meditate. And then suddenly it's like, here's what to do, you know. But that's thinking. So that's very different to intuition. And for me, intuition is like just deeper parts of me communicating with frontal parts of me. And that kind of information just arrives. There's no joining of dots. It arrives in a package, particularly if it comes straight from the mystery. It just comes in this package, like getting a parcel. You open the parcel and there's everything, all insights, all at the same time. Just there's no, you know, train of thought. It's just instant. So I can tell the difference between my thinking, intuition, and then if I've got I can tell the difference between intuition and some sort of psychic interference that might be going on, some kind of psychic entity whispering in my ear, some kind of psychic thing kind of trying to influence me to do one thing or another. I can tell the difference between those three things. I mean, that just on its own, if that was the only thing I got out of meditation, that would be so helpful, you know. Because the psychic world is a thing, psychic influence is a thing, and not all voices in your head are friendly, and not all voices in your head are telling you to do the right thing, you know. I go into this a lot in the dealing with the psychic world training. So being able to tell the difference between those three things is very helpful. Compassion. Meditation has allowed me to access love more deeply, because seeing my mind, again, I'm not consciously trying to see my mind, I'm not consciously trying to look at my thoughts, but it happens that I see my thoughts, I see my thinking, I see my insecurities, I see all the weak, vulnerable, scared parts of me. I can see all of that, and that allows me to have compassion for myself in a way that I wouldn't have had before. Because I can see myself giving myself a hard time as well. And if I can see myself giving myself a hard time, then I kind of know it's not me giving me a hard time. Or, you know, it's like I can see it happening. Because when you can observe something, then you're not that thing you're observing anymore. Previously, I would have just been giving myself a hard time. And I would have been thinking I was the one giving me a hard time. So that kind of, being able to have that kind of compassion has really allowed me to have compassion, to access compassion for other people as well, because I know what's going on for them, in them as well. Authority. What meditation has done, it's really allowed me to come into my direct experience above everything and really make a very clear distinction between what I'm told and what I experience. It's hard to describe that sort of grounded feeling that it has, but it's not making any assumptions about anything. The line between what my direct experience is and what somebody else tells me, it's very clear to me. And I find that very helpful, because if I can directly experience something, then I know that in the same way as I know everything else. And everything else is a story, which means I don't judge anything outside, you know, whatever people tell me. It's like, okay, it's all part of the same story. So whether that's somebody telling me about Finland, which I've never been there, so I don't have any direct experience of Finland, or whether they're telling me about what's going on in their version of reality or history or anything. It's like I just can hear it and go, okay. And it's very different to what my direct experience of. So I don't think I would have that very clear separation between what my direct experience is and what everything else is without meditation. Empathy, I've become more empathic. I'm a better listener because I've been noticing my own thoughts, as I say, with compassion. When I'm listening to another person talking about, and you can almost hear people thinking sometimes, and I can extend that same compassion to them. And it's helped with my communication as well, because I can hear myself tuning out when I'm listening. When I'm talking to somebody, I can hear myself tuning out because they say something, and I can hear it trigger something in me, and I'm like, oh, I know what I can say there. I've got a great little morsel of insight. I've got a great little factoid. I've got a great little joke I want to throw into the conversation. It'll be great. They'll laugh, or they'll, it'll be really helpful. And I can notice myself, I've stopped listening to the person because I'm going through what I'm going to say, and I'm just waiting for them to shut up so I can say my brilliant thing. So I can see that now, and I can kind of just calm that down and tune back into the person and listen to them, fully listen to them, taking the great risk of maybe forgetting the great thing I was going to say. And because I want to listen to them more than I want to, put my sixpence worth in. So that's been good as well. So that's all I've got. That's what I got in 15 minutes, okay, of meditation. Well, I think it turned out to be half an hour with all the stopping and writing and whatever. So, yeah, I can't say enough about meditation. Well, obviously I can. I draw a blank on it when I go to talk about it. But it's so helpful in the spiritual practice. That's why I do the training on it. And that's why I'm doing it again, because if you've done it already, do it again. Do it with me, because there's a resonance kind of thing that happens in meditation. Like, number one, the more people you meditate with, there's more of a resonance. But then you generally benefit. If you meditate with someone who's been meditating for a long time, you'll find you resonate with their vibration or energy field, which means your meditation will be easier, deeper, more profound, because there's some sort of harmonic resonance is set up with the people that you meditate. So that's why I encourage people to meditate with me, because they'll get the benefit. I've been doing this for a long time, so you'll get the benefit of that, and it sort of accelerates your own meditation practice. So, as I said before, Monday the 25th, 2 sessions, so it doesn't matter which time zone you're in. One of them will be in your time zone. It's 4-week training. It's very good. Definitely worth doing. Go to the website, furtheremergence.com. You'll find it. Register now. As I say in my little poster, the only time you can register is now. So I encourage you to do that. Okay, that's all I've got for you this time. I trust you're well. I trust you're of good cheer. I'll talk to you again soon. Bye.